On October 7, 2023, Hamas launched an attack with around 2,500 rockets at Israel, which was a clear declaration of war and a potential turning point for the future of Israel, Palestine, and the rest of the region. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the geography, like me, let's take a look at this map. This is Israel, and these two are the two territories that Palestinians reside in, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. The Gaza Strip was once occupied by the Ottoman Empire, which was a Turkish empire, and was later on occupied by the British Empire. It became a refugee for an estimated 200,000 Palestinians uprooted by the Arab-Israeli War. Egypt ruled Gaza until it lost it to Israel during the 1967 Six-Day War. In 2005, Israel withdrew its troops from Gaza and abandoned settlements of Israeli citizens. Today, the Gaza Strip and West Bank are two areas where Palestinians exercise limited self-government. Israel maintains control of Gaza's airspace and maritime territory, and along with Egypt, has enforced a blockade of the territory. Most of the funding for health, power, and other services comes from the United Nations and foreign countries. The sole power plant runs on diesel and is usually supplied by Israel and paid for by Qatar. Hamas resides in the Gaza Strip. But what is Hamas? Hamas is a military movement and one of the two political parties of Palestine. Israel and Palestine conflict dates back to the early 1900s, and it has only been getting worse and worse ever since. Over time, Israelis were moving into the West Bank and Gaza, whether for religious purposes, wanting to claim the land, or due to cheaper housing. While the conflict was ongoing, a group of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip who considered their political leaders to be weak created Hamas, which at their formation was a more aggressive group dedicated to Israel's destruction. Today, both the European Union and the United States classify Hamas as a terrorist organization. Many factors led up to the 2023 war we see now, but there was a few that seemed to have the biggest impact. The control Israel had over the Palestine territories, the increased settlements of Israelis in Gaza and the West Bank, and a dispute in Jerusalem over the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is sacred to both Muslims and Jews. Once Hamas decided they had enough, they attacked. On October 7th, Hamas launched around 2,500 rockets at Israel. The attack was launched from the Gaza Strip, in which they fired a barrage of rockets and the security barriers were breached by the gunmen. The devastating massacre by the Palestinian terror group at the start resulted in an estimated 1,500 people dead in Israel, and at least 150 army men and civilians were abducted and taken captive in the Gaza Strip. Hamas managed to deliver a destructive blow and push deep enough to force Israel to leave behind one of their air bases. Hamas is also open firing on any Israel cars on site. As terrible as the situation is in Israel, the country is not new to conflict. Over the decades, Israel has been targeted many times. They soon adapted and made Israel's Iron Dome defense system, which has a 90 to 97% success rate. It successfully intercepted most of the rockets. Even though there were casualties, it prevented what would have been a more catastrophic outcome, with the death toll possibly being much higher. The Iron Dome is one of the best defense systems in the world. It is a land-based system that is powered by missile defense batteries. The Iron Dome intercepts and destroys short-range rockets and mortars. The system is transportable and can be set up in a few hours. So how does it work? A radar unit begins to detect incoming projectiles within 4 to 70 kilometers and can track 1,100 rockets at once. The system then transfers the information about the speed and trajectory of the incoming rockets and are so advanced that it can calculate if the rocket is going to hit a densely inhabited area or not. The system typically only intercepts a rocket if it would hit a populated area. Once it confirms that it will, a rocket is fired from the launcher that contains around 20 Tamir interceptor missiles. The Iron Dome has at least 10 batteries in operation, each containing 3 to 4 launchers, which is 60 to 80 missiles, and can defend an area of 60 square miles. The missiles destroy incoming projectiles by flying near it and exploding, which sounds like a loud bang and can sometimes be felt from the ground. The goal is to intercept projectiles far from a populated area to minimize debris. If the rocket is headed to an unpopulated area, the system lets it land in the desert or sea. The Iron Dome missiles cost around $50,000 each, is partly funded by the United States military aid to Israel and Raytheon Technologies. The US has given Israel $2 billion for the Iron Dome since 2011, which is an additional from the $3.3 billion given annually that it sends to Israel for general security assistance. Since 2011, the defense system has destroyed thousands of unguided rockets fired from Gaza and Lebanon. Now keep in mind how the world views these two at war is controversial, and this is because not everyone identifies them as a country. 165 out of 193 countries recognize Israel as an actual country. 138 out of 193 countries recognize Palestine as an actual country. United States is among those that does not. Regardless, this is a major turning point for both sides. After the first attack by Hamas, the Prime Minister of Israel has already stated that they are at war and that they will win.
האויב ישלם מחיר שהוא לא ידע כמותו. אני קורא בינתיים לכל אזרחי ישראל להישמע בקפדנות להנחיות הצבא, להנחיות פיקוד העורף. אנחנו במלחמה ואנחנו ננצח בה.
The Israel and Palestine conflict has been going on for a very long time, in many forms. Hopefully, we can soon see the end of this war with as little casualties as possible.